There, now we can click go live. Go here. All right. Should be live. So right now, anybody watching the live stream, we're going to be starting soon. So just chill for a little bit. It'll be all right. They can hear us, yeah. So here's really good chatting. They can hear just people talking in the room.
Well, it's funny. She and I went to the same elementary school.
Times to mute
High school.
Yeah,
High
you can
school.
just.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute the room mic, so anybody watching the live stream, just, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, welcome. Welcome to the 15th Annual Julius Sokenu Poetry Awards. We are so excited to be here. We're so excited that you are here. Greetings on behalf of QVCC and the Julius Sokenu Poetry Awards Planning Committee. Myself, I'm John Anderson, Professor of English. If you don't know me, I'm sorry if you do know me. This is Elke Nespitia Lueza, Interim Director of Academic Affairs and Coordinator of the ESL program. Danuve Hernandez, Library Associate and Professor of Engineering, Jacob Spute, who is teaching right now.
But
Yeah,
without whom none of this would have worked, because he's our technology guru.
we're going to be giving some shout outs, definitely. Yeah, the technology would not have worked if we were in charge of that at all. Speaking of technology, if you could silence or turn off your phones at this time. Remember, your phones are in your purses or pockets. Make sure that they're quiet. And I think I'm going to turn over to you to do a little introduction and history of the program.
So this is called the 50th annual Sokenu Poetry Awards because we've been doing it for 15 years.
Amen.
Yes, consecutively. The Sokenu Poetry Awards was created by a couple of staff members of QVCC, history professor Nan Hurst and reference librarian Amy Barlow, who after they created the program, they dumped it on us after a while. But anyway, that's not true. That's not true. I'm kidding. But they did move to greener pastures. So the Sokenu Poetry Awards contest was created to promote poetry in the college community. And when it was established, it was named after one of the beloved English professors that was working here in that time. He also moved to greener pastures. But we remember him fondly, and once in a while he shows up. The contest was created to promote the poetry writings of QVCC students, both in English and in Spanish, and then eventually it grew into including poetry from QMC, the Quinebaug Valley College, and then as we're going through the 15 years, then we also developed different categories: English, Spanish, Spanish for heritage speakers, Spanish for non-heritage speakers, and QMC English and Spanish. And the last category that we introduced was performance. So, since we hope we can be here next spring for the 16th annual, those of you who would like to perform, I want to encourage you to enter the contest because I think it makes it very rich among the other categories that we have. John and I have been doing this now for a few years. It's something that we are very committed to, be up here on the stage, making fool of ourselves. But also for the other people who have joined us in the committee, it becomes a labor of love for us. And I hope we never stop.
No, that's terrific. Do you want to start with some
So
shout-outs?
since I'm on a roll, I guess I need to start thanking people who make this possible. Because we are the little ones that work on this thing. There are many other people that are instrumental. Our Director of Institutional Advancement, Monique Wolanin, is a very integral part of the prizes that the students are going to get. Our Chief Executive Officer, Karen Heineck, the Interim Dean of Academic Affairs, John Lewis, and all of the administrative cabinet, very supportive. The staff at the Quinebaug Valley College, the principal, David Brown, administrative assistant, Tony Novelty, English teacher, Suzette Lefebvre, and all the teachers who support the students in the process of creating their poems and submitting their poems to us. QVCC Student Government Association, Martin Charette for our maintenance crew, Ginger Bumpus and all the maintenance department for the arranging of the auditorium, the tables for our snacks outside, for the beautiful flowers and plants. I would take credit for that, but that would have been only 2 Charlie Brown trees and one of those arrangements.
It almost was, actually.
It almost
but
was, and Ginger Bumpus, we're gonna really give her a big shout out because she is
actually,
really
I'd like to give her a round of
a
applause.
round of applause.
Many hours she came in when it was not her shift. She
Sure.
came in the morning, and I think it was just beautiful what she did.
And when she offered to save the day, I said, please save the day, and she did. So she came and saved the day. So she's a great part of our program. The IT department at QVCC, especially Jason Tata, who has worked with the audiovisual and setting up our remote streaming that we're going to do in a little bit. So the business office, because without the business office, we wouldn't know how to pay for this. So as Alessandra Lundberg and Debbie Kantner, they're the ones who we go with, how much can we spend? And they said, this is how much, and this is how you do it, and they take care of all that. So John and I only have to do this part.
We have a few more shout outs because this really is a collaborative effort, a community effort. I do want to stop and acknowledge Amy Barlow, who is here in the audience. If you could stand. Amy did more than anyone over many years to shape the vision of this program and just involved so many students over so many years, and she was a pleasure to work with, and we grieved when she left, but here she comes back too, so that's
every year.
And also Michael Lynch is here. Thank you, Michael, for all the support that you gave over the years for this program. We really appreciate it.
You know, Amy's here to make sure we're keeping the
Does check in.
place running.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, we'll ask her later. I don't
Yeah,
want a report card right now. All right. A few other people, QVCC Marketing and Communication Specialist Paige Carrillo, she created these programs. She did a lot more. She's one person in the marketing office right now, I think, doing the job of 3 people. The graphics. So thank you, Paige, for everything that you did. QVCC Bookstore Manager Mick Saxeth, Kevin Davis, and the Government Association, SGA Government Association. The food and drink, the wonderful comestibles and beverages that we have are thanks to Courtney Haynes, Heather Plord, and the Food for Thought team. So thank you. And then finally to the judges. So the judges, Elkin and I don't judge because we see many poems in process. So the poems in Spanish were judged by Maria Garcia Alvarez, Gloria Rivera, and Jacob Spute. And poems in English were judged by Scott DeShong and Brian Kaufman. So thank you. And then finally, of course, the QVCC Cultural Programming Committee, whose support was crucial for this. So I think we have a couple special guests. Bruce Cohen is going to be with us in a moment, but we have another special guest before that who I think you're going to introduce. And hopefully will appear.
Hopefully.
All right, we'll see.
So I said before when I was talking for so long that sometimes the namesake of the poetry, Sokenu Poetry and Word Ceremony shows up. And tonight we're hoping that he shows up. So if you guys indulge us, maybe he will appear on our screen and have a few words. Julius Sokenu.
That's Jacob's speech.
That's Jacob's speech. But he's coming, I think he's coming. And if he doesn't show up, it's going to be like waiting for you.
Yeah. Waiting for Godot.
Oh, yeah. Like we said, we're not the technical people. Something is happening. Are you controlling this? No? You might have to call
Not
Jacob
singing.
out of class. Is the meeting started?
Okay,
Oh, something. Yeah, join again.
that's okay. We'll come back to him. He might appear later.
You see nothing?
Okay. Well, maybe we should go on.
Maybe we can go on. Well, like I said, he might. Sure.
Thanks for your patience. Okay, so we're going to go on with the program. I'm going to introduce our honored guest, Bruce Cohen. For this program, the featured poets are the students, but we always have an honored guest, usually a nationally or internationally recognized poet, someone who's achieved the highest in the craft. There's a performance poet right back there. Thank you. And also someone, we look for an honored guest who's someone who's the highest achievement in the art, but also is very interested in supporting students. And among other things, Bruce Cohen is a professor, a ridiculously popular professor at UConn. His students love him. So a little bit about Bruce. Bruce was born and raised in the Bronx. And his poetry and creative nonfiction have appeared in over 100 literary periodicals, including the best journals for poetry in the country and probably in the world: Agni, Georgia Review, Harvard Review, New Yorker, et cetera, et cetera. He's published 4 full-length collections of poetry. Most recently, the book Imminent Disappearances, Impossible Numbers, and Panoramic X-Rays. And this is a book that my creative writing students read this semester and loved, and had some really interesting things to say about it as well. He's been on the creative writing faculty at the University of Connecticut since 2012. And for many years before that, he created and implemented nationally recognized academic enhancement programs, University of Arizona, University of California at Berkeley, and at UConn. So I just wanted to say a few words, though, about his poetry to prepare you before he begins. And I'm not going to go on and quote him. Professors like to profess, we're dangerous in front of microphones, but I won't go on that long. But I think there are a few relevant points or important points. First, you should know that you're not going to hear poems that have a consistent meter or prescribed meter and predictable end rhyme. But if you listen, you are going to hear the music in the lines. You are also going to hear the thoughts of an imaginative, sensitive, sometimes very serious, and sometimes very funny speaker. And those thoughts are going to be associative sometimes. There will be what appears to be a non sequitur, a leap to a different topic. And then you'll see how the poems move like our thoughts move. That's how often we think when we're ruminating. Right? We think of something, a memory flashes, we move to something else. And so he's moving us through these beautiful thoughts in his poems, and you see things come back, and you see images come back, and there's sort of an accumulating power. And in that way, the poems, I think, they're highly imaginative and interesting and different, but they're also emblematic, or they're representative of how we think. And ultimately, these poems are about people. You're going to hear questions in his poems. Different kinds of questions: philosophical questions, absurd questions, provocative questions. And my personal experience, and I hope that you have this in these poems, is that I don't start to try to come up with hard and fast answers for those questions. In fact, I don't even necessarily want the answers to the questions. What it reminds me of, though, is that being curious is being alive, right? And it reminds me of that curiosity when we're little children, and we always have another question, and there's always another answer, and there's a question beyond that. The great jazz musician John Coltrane said that there are always new feelings and sounds to get at. And that joy of living, of always wanting to know more, I think is a big part of Bruce's work. Finally, you're going to hear a speaker who, like us, is just trying to do the best he can every day. So you're going to hear the speaker who's going to be in the supermarket or the emergency room or a rustic cabin in Vermont with his family, and he's learning how to live with the sadness and the hilarity of this thing called life and celebrating it with us. I could read a lot of great quotes by very important people about his work, but actually I think I'm going to read a quote from one of my students. Throughout reading, I remained in awe by the way he brought us through concepts that are entirely abstract while tying them to something tangible. The constant contrast between reality and the imagined is clever, insightful, and artistically incredible. So, without further ado, the artistically incredible Bruce Cohen.
So, hey, John, thank you for that incredibly generous. I feel like my poems are not that good. I mean, it's like I was saying, oh, I'm ready to hear this guy, but it's not me. So one of the, let me just get my timer. I'm only going to read my poems for like 3.5 hours, so just relax. I wanted to congratulate like the student poets. I don't like to do readings very often. I don't do them very much anymore. And I was very honored and happy when John asked me. I remembered when I was a college student and I won a little award and I got to do a reading and I was nervous. I was, my heart was pounding. I was a mess. I read really badly. But there was a cute girl in the audience, a really cute girl. And at the end of the reading, she came up to me and she said, "Oh, I really like your poems." And I was like, "So would you like to like go out?" So we've been married for like 45 years. So my point being, maybe you can meet your life partner tonight after your poems. I don't think any one of you, and I certainly, this is true for me, I could never have written poems or achieved anything without a mentor. And for me, my mentor was Steve Orland, who was a great poet. And I wanted to open up with an old poem I wrote about him, and it was, it made me realize kind of the value of poetry, because when he died, many of us who were his, protégés came out to be with him at the end. And that's what this poem really, it's about. It's sort of a sentimental poem. And it's also, what I loved about Steve was that he made everything funny, even things that weren't funny. And the title of this poem is Nevermind. And the way the title came about was, he was, literally on kind of his last leg, dying from lung cancer. And I said, "What do you want on your gravestone?" He said, "Oh, I want to just put Nevermind." He thought that was his little joke. So I never use epigraphs. I hate epigraphs. This poem has an epigraph because there was a part of the earlier draft of the poem that I just didn't have the stomach to throw out, but it never worked in the poem. So my friend said, just make it an epigraph. So the epigraph is, Steve Orland would pose an awkwardly intimate question about your life as though your life mattered to him, and magically your life began to matter to you. And he was someone who would ask you very direct and intimate questions, and he meant it, and he expected a real answer. You drum-rolled into my dim-witted frontal lobe a notion that swapping truth for a poem's emotion and musicality was A-OK. Now that the documentation of your life is notarized, birth and death certificate time-stamped, now that your most recent draft is abandoned, the primitive 60s tattoo, swallow tattoo, on your left forearm will transform into a hummingbird, thumbnail size, so as not to be overstated, coexisting on the subtle side of art. That morning after your demise, I sat with your wife. I stood, actually, on what used to be your front porch. Well, still a front porch, but no longer yours. And we both admired how this not quite a bird, more an enormous insect, hovered around the sugar water in a cobalt blue bottle that dangled from a mesquite tree you planted. It is believed some Native American cultures, when a well-loved man dies, he hovers over his neighborhood, his personal haunts and hangouts, for a couple of goof-off days, eavesdropping on what his pals are saying about him, before the immense undertaking to integrate into the sweet elixir of everything. Undoubtedly, you relish the gossip and little reminiscences we told about you. Undoubtedly, you were concerned some secrets would leak out, though I swear mine would not, including the 3 a.m. episode in the parking lot of a now demolished Las Vegas casino with that half-black, half-Korean woman in the platinum wig, the slow dance under the singular street lamp in the world vacant, without the benefit of music. I am not afraid of sentimentality. I will never fear revealing my vulnerabilities in a dangerous neighborhood. I sport my poet gang colors anywhere. During your last days, an esoteric population meandered in your backyard to take photos of your swallow tattoo so they could ink identical shapes and colors into their own skin. And it crossed my mind too. But ultimately, it seemed too cliché, and skin ink is too permanent for poetry, which is the continual revision of thought due to the inaccuracies of life observations. Make no mistake, my tattoo is here, but invisible. Visible only to those who know the password, the secret handshake. I chose the fleeting hummingbird, which hovers, eavesdrops, has the physics-defying ability to fly in place and preserve secrets before it zooms off to strange and mysteriously intuitive places. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, my wife and I have been married, been together. We've actually been married for that, but we lived together in sin for a number of years before that, and to her father's chagrin. And this poem is just sort of about a life that you share for a long period of time, and it sort of confronts the kind of stereotypical notion that obviously one of you is going to die before the other, and that sense of loss. And then there's also the playfulness, of being married for a long time. But I'm in charge of making the coffee the night before, and every morning she, she berates me for not making it properly, not strong enough. And so what I started doing many years ago is I get up before her, and I would take a sip, and I'd say, "Oh man, the coffee is too strong today." And she would give me that kind of hateful, evil eye, knowing that, no. So, and my wife's name is Leslie. The poem is The Unclaimed Third Pillow. Leslie motions to me to help make the bed. We're chinsy at our age about extra steps. She instructs me to tug tighter the baby blue top sheet, pillows indented not only from the weight of our heads, but dreams too. If I were no longer, I ask, would you still make the bed every morning? Or remarry? What if I go first, she asks. I confess I can't see myself not being both of us. so I'd continue to smooth the blanket from both sides. In fair disclosure, I'd slurp incongruous meals at odd hours on the couch and use my sleeve as a napkin. Some weeks I might not shave or talk to a mirror. In winter, would I bother to assemble the artificial Christmas tree we debated over transitioning to for years? Would I rebox it before daffodils sprout? I vow to meticulously unwrap each heirloom ornament from its tissue paper and hook them on symmetrical branches, reciting their respective anecdotes. This one, the oversized chocolate kiss from our vacay to Hershey Park, where I kidnapped a chambermaid, which now sounds mythical, our first, before we had kids, Flannery's frayed cat toy. One summer, when the boys were very small and we didn't understand money, we rented a rustic cabin in Vermont. No running water, and an enormous skylight window in the bedroom window. We brought our own sheets. Alone, Leslie made the bed while the boys and I didn't catch fish. That night, we all five crowded onto the lumpy, stained mattress. One of the boys said he saw a strange upside-down man on the roof peeking through the window, and none of us slept, bug-eyed at the dark glass between us and the fidgety stars. I wonder if beds in heaven are beautifully unmade, and couples rejoin on their habitual sides, flirtatiously fighting over the unclaimed third pillow. After we fluff up the comforter on the actual bed, we hobble downstairs. One of us forgot to grind coffee the night before, and minor blame volleys. She sniffs the half and half from the fridge, instructs me to sniff too because she can't read the expiration date. I squint but can't make out an expiration date either. Sometimes we put on each other's cheaters by mistake or out of lazy convenience, and the present returns to not totally unclear. One day, grandkids will unpack the esoteric ornaments, unaware of the personal histories, maybe beg their fathers and uncles to recite the affiliated stories from another life. De-origami, the tissue paper. Finger the fragility of things eternally unbroken. I cross my fingers and tell her the milk still has a few good days. After we were actually married, we moved to Berkeley. The reason why we got actually married is because she was pregnant. We wanted to get health insurance, and we moved to Berkeley at the very beginning of the AIDS crisis. And a good friend of ours, who was living in Tucson at that time, was starting a program, basically exploring the AIDS epidemic and what it was. Nobody knew what it was at that point. And we moved to San Francisco, and he was a very, very big personality, flamboyant person. And he asked if he could stay with us for a few days to go to this AIDS conference. And we were like, yeah, of course. We were really happy because he was very kind to us. We got, he had a party for us after our wedding. And everything changed. He was not himself when he got there. So this poem is sort of about that experience, and it's sort of about the beginning of the AIDS crisis. Born homesick. All anyone needs to do is drive across America to see there's plenty of room for everyone. I suspect the problem with most people is they spend too much time talking through shut doors. Cosmo was baby-faced, extroverted, flamboyant, a fashionista. Skinny ties and shoulder pads were all the rage, with broomstick posture. Even the medical community didn't know the cause. I used to love, I forget the name of the place, the overstuffed burritos on the corner of Mission and 24th. Gorging myself on the curb, I was haunted by couples of gaunt male ghosts holding hands, propping each other up. Their garlic paper skin, those hollow faces. Now picture the vibrancy of San Francisco circa 1980, the flush excitement of being in our late 20s, undesignated cash bulging wallets, childless then. To be safe, drag queens stopped buying their wigs at the Salvation Army. The bars became less populated. Jukeboxes were unplugged. Nobody understood the mechanisms of transmission, if it was even a singular it. Dumpster diving became passé because dumpsters reconfigured as studio apartments where runaways died in fetal positions, reaching to hug invisible mothers, appearing to have been born homesick. Here's my personal tale. We had just moved to Berkeley, and Cosmo phoned to ask if he could crash for a few days while he attended a conference on the new epidemic. I tipped him off that the natives would be appalled if he uttered the term Frisco. I giddily plotted and mused over the museums and restaurants, drew diagrams of the BART routes. I should mention, as a sidebar, Cosmo introduced me to my wife. We met at a bar at his house playing charades. I read her body language and correctly guessed her beer commercial clues. He later hosted our wedding after party. He confessed he'd never been to San Francisco and ticked off all he wanted to see and do. Oddly, it seemed very odd, he camped out in the spare bedroom for 3 smoky days. I couldn't lure him out, even seduced him with a promise to usher him to the bars, tried coaxing him with an impossible-to-get reservation at Chez Panisse. I even fibbed that Alice Waters was a close personal friend, and a rumor was floating that MFK Fisher would be dining there that night. I just assumed he was nervous about traveling alone on BART. Surmised the idea of a train under the ocean freaked him out. I offered to be his chauffeur. The letters in AIDS were not yet capitalized. He barricaded himself in our extra bedroom and chain smoked. We chatted through the door. Would I mind picking him up a carton of Benson and Hedges? He slipped a crisp 20 under that door in a well-licked envelope with a personalized sheet of purple stationery and wrote, "Muchas gracias," in his dazzling cursive. On Saturday, he did not, as usual, kiss me, European style, on both cheeks. He did gushingly thank me, but refused a ride to the airport, insisted on taking a cab. Had I done something to offend? I asked him. I confronted myself. I'd heard he'd been fired from his position. Maybe that was it. I'd heard a rumor he'd brazenly embezzled from the English department expense account. I knew his sister had recently died, that his parents disallowed him to come home, attend her funeral. I imagined he knew he would be one of the first. Must have received the diagnosis just before he arrived. It's the only thing that explains how un-Cosmo he became. Out of my own ignorance, I fumigated the vacant room, tossed out dishes and coffee mugs I thought touched his lips, burned the bed sheets and towels in the fireplace, avoided public toilets. It was not easy to never go back to my favorite burrito joint, whose name I wish I could remember. Add that to my list of regrets. when our middle son moved to Brooklyn, New York for law school, I drove him there and moved him into his apartment. And he was like our last son to leave, so we were sort of, the proverbial empty nesters. And I realized, the fatherhood thing was sort of not, if it's not over, at least it reconfigured itself. And this is sort of just about that experience. Eggshell weight. After the movie, we talk about the movie. As after a funeral, we reminisce over a funny episode of the dead man's life. Is it art or articulation that best dignifies finality, disappointment? After I relocate my son to his Brooklyn apartment with the malfunctioning elevator and clanking AC, I understand he is only barely still my boy and infinitely my son. I don't believe in years, but in the heaviness of manhole covers, the heart-skip panic of redirected traffic. I want to say my house is empty now, but my emptiness is my house, with an infinity mortgage, nearly underwater, upside down, curtains sun-faded, carpets traffic patterned. After work night dinners, my wife and I critique improperly seasoned dishes, the undercooked, what we might do differently next time, if there could be a next time. After the hardware store clerk asked what color I wanted to paint my son's old bedroom, and when I told him, paradox, he smirked because he said there are infinite shades, nearly impossible to match. Once in a while, though, he said, you can get very lucky. But I settled for neutral eggshell white. After I pause a half block from my son's apartment, I look up and witness my boy's unblemished life peering through the transparency of his picture window, talking on his cell phone. To some girlfriend, I suppose. Describing a different future beauty than the one I see. I guess, and I'll read one more poem. I want to hear your poems, to be honest. So, I'll read a short poem. This poem is it's called Power Broker. It actually came from a memory I had when I was in high school. My best buddy that I grew up with, she went to Hollywood to become an actress. And it went badly. It went very badly, and she came home defeated and dejected. And but she had all this wisdom about how the world worked. And as a 16-year-old boy, I was very impressed with her worldly knowledge. Power Broker. Backroom deals, generational alliances, and prearranged marriages are shaken on, toasted to, well before we arrive at the inside party. It's only a pretense the party include us. The handwritten invitation stated martinis would be served at 8 o'clock sharp, but most everyone was already plastered by the time we sauntered in, a few minutes early even. This esoteric society has been going on for centuries, and we try to peek in from outside the frosted windows, bewildered on wobbly ladders or standing on each other's shoulders. It's about leverage, triple location, who you know, the luck of your birthright. My childhood doll face venture to Hollywood reminded me it's not who you know, but who you blow. She said when you have to rinse out your panties in a gas station men's room, you get an undisputed sense of who's really in charge. When she came back to town, she couldn't even check her mailbox without meticulous mascara, a lipstick shade not of this world, refusing her life like a martini not properly shaken, missing its pearl onion. She had changed her name and changed it back again. Well, thank you for listening and coming.
Bruce, thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
I think we actually have our other honored guest ready, maybe to
That's what I
be
was
here.
gonna say.
You were going to say that.
So, we hope that who we said might show up, will show up now. So, Julius Sokenu. Right there. Welcome, Julius.
Can you hear me?
Hopefully we can hear this.
I can hear you, yes. Oh, do I need to increase the volume? I just did. Can you hear better, or do I need to further increase it? Ooh, wait a second. I didn't hear the last thing you said. I heard soaking up something. But... Oh, thank you. I know. It's such an honor to have this um, uh, 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 august body of writers and just folks who are not only writers but who are invested in poetry and who are invested in the word come and gather in an event that is named after me. It's an honor that I will forever be proud of, and I will forever be committed to making sure that I live up to that name of that poetry award. Thanks, Jack. I just want to say a very big thank you to all those individuals who keep the Sokenu Poetry Award going. You know, the fact that my years at Moorpark College my years at Quinebaug Valley Community College were formative years for me as an educator, as a writer, and as really as a community activist. And I appreciate the fact that that energy and that focus, that commitment to using the word and to use poetry as an avenue of enhancing the human capacity and building community and speaking truth to power and testifying to justice, to have all of that happen in the work that I've heard so far tells me that you're doing a great thing and you continue to live out the legacy of the poets who inform all of us. So I thank you for your continued investment in this work and investment in keeping poetry alive at Quinebaug Valley Community College. You're welcome.
Of the winners and the titles of their poems. We're not going in that exact order. We're actually going to start with the Quinebaug Middle College prizes. And each poet is going to come up here. They are going to receive a book from us, the Norton Anthology of Poetic Forms, which is a wonderful collection of poetry and also great, beautiful instruction on how to write poems. So it's it's a beautiful generative thing. We realize that a few poets who are winners tonight have also been honored in previous years. So rather than giving them the same book, we have some other books to give them. A few will be receiving Poetry Like Bread, Poets of the Political Imagination, which brings together the work of Curbstone Press, the legendary poetry press that was right up the road in Curbstone in Willimantic. And then the poet will go over to Bruce, and Bruce will give them one of his books, and the poet will read their work. Nice. So let's begin. So beginning with the Quinebaug Middle College category, in third place we have Vincent Moore for his poem You. So Vincent, if you're here, can you come up?
Can you come this way? Because we're gonna get something.
Come right up here, and we'll give you your book. Congratulations, Bruce. And Bruce has another book for you. And there will also be a gift certificate from the Quinebaug Middle College.
Is that the right name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want to give the wrong book, John.
Yeah, a lot of pressure there.
I know, I'm very nervous about this.
Can you read your
I
poem?
want to get out of
Sure.
your way.
Thank you.
My poem is You, and it's actually dedicated to my brother. I couldn't have done this without you, actually, and I wrote it basically about you. When I met you for the first time, I was stunned, confused, but most of all, I was scared. How can you be so different, but still me? There wasn't a set you, and there still isn't. You change every day, every month, and every year. And I guess that's how we are. That's how we all are. We change all the time, every day, every month, every year. We change for the better. Sometimes we don't change the way we want, and that's okay. You'll change again and again and again. You'll keep changing until you find the you that you've been looking for, the you that makes you feel special, the you that makes you proud, the you that makes you stop and go, wow, that's me. The you that makes you, you. Sometimes you don't change greatly, only a little. Maybe you change a hobby or a hairstyle, but other times you can change greatly. You can change more than you think. You can change your love for others, your respect for everyone around you, your perspective of the world, but most importantly, you can change your love for you. You can love your changes, love your imperfections. You can fall in love with your smile. You can love the way you look. You can fall in love with who you're meant to be. You can love you.
Thank you, Vincent, for that beautiful poem, paying tribute and of affirmation, and beautifully read too. For second place in the Quinebaug Middle College category is John Nash for his poem Silent Buzzing. So John, if you come on up.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Give me a second here, and you pull up on my phone.
I have a copy too, John, if you read it.
No, it's right here. Don't worry.
They're so hip reading their phones. Kids these days.
Okay, so this poem is called Silent Buzzing. It's just about mental health, I guess. So, silent buzzing, silent echoes, and empty buzzing, always on high efficiency. Silent echoes in my buzzing head, a story of two sides, flip a coin. Heads, be happy, be productive, do something impulsive or good. Tails, punch my hands, split my lips, muffled screams of silence. The cracks on my exterior crumbling, the precious china of innocence now shattered, a design of flowers of nightshade, desaturated lilies, a brilliant bouquet of how I portray. Inside the china was torment of unbridled humanity, the humanity that destroyed lands, destroys ecosystems, breaks hearts, and walks away without a care in the world. I pondered of something great one time, times ago before the clocks would tick, before I had to find a bic. These silent echoes, buzzing so loud, thumping around a hollow head, but it's not hollow because everything inside expands. You can hear it now. Now you feel it.
Thank you, John. Taking on a really important topic, and I love the conflicts in that poem, right from the paradoxical silent buzzing in the title. First place in the Quinebaug Middle College High School category goes to Ania Carvajal Morton for her poem, Eyes That Watch. And Ania, I think you are here. Could you come up and receive your prize? And I think I'm going to read your poem. Okay, she's not here? Okay, all right. Well, let's go around and I do want to share her poem. Eyes That Watch. We're all the same. In the time of sickness, our personality fades. Our skin grows cold. We slowly fade. We turn the pages until we feel the warmth within our skin again. Former Connecticut Poet Laureate Leo Connellan said that some very good poems show and then stop and leave us there. And I think in this poem did that. Elkin, are you taking the next category?
I think so.
Okay. We should sound more sure, so we.
We're making it up as we go. Usually how we do it. So the next part of this program is the Spanish non-heritage speaker category awards. And our third prize winner on that category is Hannah Kipp.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
La playa, la arena debajo de los dedos de los pies, el sol en mi cara, la brisa detrás de mi sopla, el océano salpica regio. Me gusta ver las nubes, derivar lentamente por el aire. Me gusta ver a los parejos volar. Vuelan sobre la altura de vastas mías. La playa es mi nuevo lugar favorito. La playa calma mi alma. Tengo una sonrisa en mi cara cada vez que veo rodar el océano.
Very nice, Hannah. I wonder who your Spanish teacher is. So the next two prizes are actually the same person because the judges judged blindly. So they gave us two poems and happen to be written by the same person. However, unfortunately, and I don't think that this person would want it to not be here, but because of other commitments, she's not here today. So second prize is Rachel Verdefe. And the second prize of non-heritage speakers is called Cuando Camino. Cuando camino, camino sola, nadie detrás de mí, nadie antes que yo, pero estoy sola. Los árboles susurran, las rocas miran fijamente, la tierra cuenta mis pasos. Aunque no hay otros pies además del mío, no son los únicos pasos. No estoy sola porque a mi lado camina un amigo, uno que siempre se ve y no siempre se escucha, pero que siempre está ahí para mí. Cuando camino, no camino sola, porque un amigo está con yo. Mi perro camina a mi lado. And like I mentioned, Rachel is also the recipient of the first prize of the non-heritage speakers prize with the poem titled El amor de una madre. Ella cose mis camisas rotas, así como mis rodillas rotas. Ella canta canciones de felicidad y llora canciones que son tristes. Ella toma mi mano cuando me caigo y seca mis lágrimas. Ella me enseña la forma de actuar y sonríe a medida que crezco. Cuando soy vieja y enojada, ella toma mis cambios con calma y no cierra la puerta cuando sola quiero esconderme. Cuando me caso felizmente, ella sonríe a mi lado. Ella juega con todos mis hijos como si fueran suyos y les cuenta todas las historias de su madre cuando era niña. Cuando llegue la hora, cuando ella deba decir adiós, mi madre dice, te amo por última vez. By the way, a little note that I got from the judges that they didn't know who this person was, is that this poem hadn't cried. So it is a beautiful poem that I'm lucky to have read. Am I going next?
Do the heritage speaker.
No, I guess I'm doing the next section. So now we're going to go into the Heritage Speakers Prize, and we only have one winner in this category. Lourdes Sanchez Rodriguez. So, Lourdes is so nice to actually ask me to read her poem because I did such a wonderful job. Her poem is called Verano. Pasado iluminado, pedir a volver, doler en pensar, momentos inolvidables, las olas nos empuje, fuego artificiales lumbres, la playa va a olvidar, huellas en la arena, el verano se consume lentamente. Adiós amigos, adiós castillos.
Thank you, Elkin. Thank you, Lucas. So the final category tonight is the QVCC, the College English category. And we will begin with an honorable mention for Alyssa LaVille for her poem, Piece Together, A Way to Exist. Come on up, Alyssa.
Hi, my poem is called Piece Together the Way to Exist. Love and loss, the fundamental aspects of life and all things beautiful. The interconnections of a mind you must cross. Beware of the numb and sinful. Do not become absorbed by luscious summer moss or the winter while it is seemingly blissful. Take note of their eyes, the tears that lead to a thin layer of gloss. Do not ignore and leave yourself wistful. Do not acknowledge the exhaust, but appreciate when the love is peaceful. Black and white. The pain of the past seems vibrant, but you must overcome it. Do not let it overpower your spirit. Days ahead will no longer be dull, but bright. Hold close whomever is dearest. Never let go, almost too tight. It will keep your mind clearest. Self-absorption is the leading cause of death. Life is too abstract to think of oneself only. Being too in tune to the intricacies of others is the second leading cause of death. You must find the balance between being smothered and lonely, between love and loss, black and white, all while finding time to take a breath and understand the stimuli around you wholly. Learn to love, learn to heal, learn to understand. Study the details until you no longer have anything left to study. Understand yourself, but not debilitatingly so. Fight against the selfishness in your veins and the cold in your chest on rainy nights. Piece together the way to exist.
Thank you, Alyssa. Wise words. I like the double meaning of peace and how we have to find balances to get to that place. Wonderfully done. The next honorable mention goes to Sierra Ings for her poem Tartarus's Ode to Love. That's a long walk.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Before I start, I just want to, I wrote this poem first when I was 15, so 6 years ago now, and it was 3 pages long, and it was called Damned Lovers, and I've workshopped it so much since then. Now we're down to 1 page. So, you are life. I am death. You are the blissful day. I am the sacred night. Your smile is the sun. My freckles are the stars. We touch, the moments before rest. We feel the meeting of one's existence and demise. You are bright. I am dark. We come together and become the most beautiful colors. You are the alluring summer. I am the melancholic winter. Your sweat is the blissful rain. My tears are the frigid snow. We are the eye of the vile storm, destroying anything we chance upon. Damned lovers never to meet amidst gazing eyes, but always to touch during twilight. You with your soft hands, I fondle you roughly. Lust-filled eyes, beclouded nights, filled with sloppy kisses and quiet moans. For in the eyes of the gods, we are sinful. 2 souls that never should have touched, a connection that was never meant to be. It was killing us, destroying our universe. I was dead, keeping you alive. As you ran, following a soul that should have never been yours. I lie in peace. A whisper stay upon your lips. Oh, my love, the fates doomed us from the start. Until we meet again.
It does my heart good to hear students talk about revising. and what an outcome. Great use of mythic characters in such a present tense poem. Thank you, Sierra. Third place in the English category is D. Mercer for her poem Mother Wound, Father Guarded.
Congratulations.
Could I borrow the copy? Wanted this as backup just in case I lose my place. Thank you. Mother Wound, Father Garden. This is the box that is built. This is the box that you build. My grandfather called my mother a dreamer lost in the hope of a better life. My mother dreamt so I could dream. She dreamt so I could be, have the capacity to be. Mother Wound. My grandmother punished my father, his body, sent him to his knees on piercing grains of rice. My father knelt so I could kneel. He knelt so I could heal, have the capacity to heal. Father Garden. I dream beyond this body. I dream alongside this body. I dream this body, my tears watering soil as dry as my father's nightmares. He was always spitting in his sleep, desperate to hydrate at any cost. Be damned, my mother says. Leave the faucets trickling to keep the pipes from freezing beneath the walls of these long frozen rooms. 8. 16. 33 years with the faucets drip, drip, dripping, a slow seep to keep from fully solidifying, a percussive leak on purpose. And here is this earth, soil dampened. And here is this earth, soil dampened. Lost. Forgive me. I have to double check. And here is this earth, soil dampened. And here are these seeds, or are they magic? And here are these hands, cracked and prepared. What will grow from where we dig? Thank you.
Yeah, I love the ambition and generational scope of that poem. Writing poetry is a discrete skill from performing poetry, and you have both the page and the stage mastered. Beautifully done. Thank you. Second place in the QVCC English category goes to Lauren Deary for her poem Daffodil.
I wrote this poem in honor of my youngest brother, who struggled with childhood cancer and is regained his health. And I love him very much. So, leave familiar embrace and be wishful. He is still here. The last to come cannot be the first to leave. Face familiar to mind should not wane this way. To embrace is to trace the outline of bone. Heart can still beat and you can still die. A boy left to be a shadow of cracked lips and hallucination. Living death, wishful rain on wilted flowers. Mortal feeling of only blood and sour. I mourn him though he is still here, and through fear of borrowed time, the flowers have hung to dry.
Perfect timing for a poem titled Daffodil. And yeah, you really capture both the fear and the healing. First place in the QVCC English category goes to Dakota Dwyer Matson for her poem Convergence.
Congratulations.
Unfold this. All right. First of all, hello. Wow, this is, I'm kind of nervous. All right. Okay, so I wrote this poem. It's a romantic poem. It's something that I've come to really appreciate, between couples. It's just the simple idea of just holding someone's hand and just feeling just a surge of feelings just from that and alone, just that touch of contact. And I wrote this poem kind of based on the idea of just like two strangers meeting and then touching each other, and there's just like an instant connection even though they've never known each other. Her hand grips his, a firm shake. When an electric current passes through, it tears a hole through that cloud of incompleteness in her heart, sealing it instead with a sense of rightness. And with it comes an envelopment of relaxing, comforting intimacy, like drinking hot cocoa after a long day in the snow, or falling asleep to the sounds of rain tapping the roof. Simultaneously, every cell in her body explodes with life, each one calling out only for him. Sudden clarity. She knows his touch upon her skin, his arms, his lips, even his forehead. Yes, every inch had once made contact with hers. A revelation, so poignantly intoxicating, it leaves her unsteady. But all she can say, all she's allowed to say is, "Have we met?" I could recommend two of the best examples of hand-holding in movies. I can recommend Star Wars: The Last Jedi and The Matrix Resurrections. Thank you.
Did we make it?
I think we made it.
I think we made it. Another successful Sokenu Poetry Awards, the 15th.
The majority of these prizes are funded through the generosity of our amazing QVCC Foundation, and so that's something to think about donating if you'd like to support this program. You can contact Monique Willannon. Her contact information is in here, I believe, and also on the QVCC website at the end. Again, thank you to the student poets and their amazing work. This is a sampling of the talent and the amazing narratives and stories that are walking through these halls every day. Feel free to hang out a little bit. Bruce Cohen's books are for sale. Feel free, if student poets, please greet Bruce. He's as friendly as he seems, and he'll sign your book for you. So thank you all.
Thank you everybody for supporting the Sokenu Poetry Awards. We plan to do it again next year. So let's support it. Come back even if it's just to enjoy some poetry. Thank you.
John, there's these 2 books.